I got to correct my own outro after this segment. Suzanne Bates from Americans for Fair Treatment is going to talk about the spending in the teachers union. I'm going to continue thoughts from the monologue. Terry Schilling is rejoining us. He is the president of the American Principles Project. But before I bring him on, just because we're going to talk about the culture war, air fingers quote, play that first clip from the argument. I think the majority of us feel like that little boy right now. Let me bring in Terry Schilling. How you doing, sir? Welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Excited to be here.
You know what? They turned an event that I think originated to create some level of tolerance or acceptance. I'm pretty libertarian in my thinking. If that's what you want to do in the privacy of your bedroom or on private property in a nightclub, whatever, you keep it out of the public square. No harm, no foul. But now they've taken every form of late night adult behavior and not only put it on display at daytime, they've almost demanded that we bring our children to these events.
No, and that was what got a bunch of grief in Dallas was the drag your kids to Pride event, right? This is not about tolerance anymore. This is about forcing people to accept this. And it's not enough just to, you go as an adult, you have to drag your kids to Pride. Andrew, the funniest thing about all of this is the constant attacks and accusations that conservatives are waging a culture war, right? The culture war is raging. It is full on, but it's not from the right. It is from the left. And all you need is to go to a drag queen story hour or one of these Pride parades just to see that firsthand.
I don't like the phrase safe space, but it's almost like they're making no escape for this stuff. And they're bringing it into the government-run schools and shaming parents who are like, all right, I'm opting out of this. Look, again, there's tolerance, there's acceptance. In my heart of hearts, I'm a social conservative, but as a constitutionalist, I don't want my own personal opinions to be the rule of law. So, make a space. If that's what you want to do and that's how you want to raise your kids, I guess, live and let live. But there's the Pride marketing machine has become very militant, right? If your corporation, if your business doesn't change that social media, avatar to a rainbow flag, if you don't put the rainbow flag in your front window, it's almost like the Gestapo's coming for you.
No, that's right. And they use that to intimidate us and isolate us and make us feel like we're all alone, like we're the crazy ones for thinking that men can't have babies. But the reality is that truth is real, right? And if we stick to governing on truth and legislating truth and stick to the natural law, we're going to be fine, right? We really need to start treating the LGBT movement as its own religion and give it no special favors, right? Why is it that my kids can't say the Our Father as part of a prayer in public school, but they're being forced to learn about the 125,000, gender identities out there, right? This is crazy to me.
Yeah, and I have to imagine somewhere in the Pride movement there are people that say, maybe some of this stuff in front of the kids it's not winning hearts and minds. I mean, I just read from a Washington Post piece where the writer's like, yeah, kink is a part of this, and you should expose your kids to it because I am. It's like, no, there's a difference between accepting there might be a neighbor whose kid has two dads or two moms or what have you, Aunt so-and-so is now off with another woman, but you don't need to have men in leather dancing and saying things over microphones that just... I asked the question, if there was no pride flag at all, and this was happening at the local park, would you consider it appropriate? Probably not.
No, that's exactly right. And Andrew, you and I are totally normal, right? And the reason I know that we're normal is because we have the same positions that so many in the LGBT movement have, right? I run a pro-family organization, and we run ads against the trans movement, primarily on sports and women's private spaces. And you know what's funny is that it was my gay friends who actually gave me the idea to attack the left on their transgender insanity. You don't have to be a bigot to think that men can't have babies, right? You don't have to be a bigot to think that maybe we shouldn't be exposing children to this stuff. You can be a totally normal, and in fact, I'd say that the only way to be normal is to think that you can't expose children to this stuff. But this is stuff that even the gay movement agrees with. Like, we shouldn't be exposing this. We should be protecting the innocence of children. It's that simple.
You know, there always was a sense of, hey, when it's time to put the kids to bed, right? There's the kind of Halloween party you might have for the kids during the day, and there might be a Halloween party that you and your spouse attend when the babysitter shows up, right? It's like, you know, there are things you might expose your kids to in Vegas during the day, and there are some things you don't expose them to at night. And it's okay to say there are some things that adults can see and kids shouldn't see. I mean, we have a film rating system in this country. We have all sorts of things that say, hey, you know what? This is not appropriate for 5-year-olds, or this is not appropriate for 13-year-olds, or this is not appropriate even for 15-year-olds. There's nothing wrong with saying some things are not age appropriate. This is what's been addressed in Florida. Nobody's saying don't say gay. Nobody's saying they hate gay people. They're saying there are some things that you don't have to explain to a 5-year-old.
No, that's exactly right. I'm glad you brought up the Florida bill, because that really gets to the heart of what is motivating the left. They understand that when you're a grown adult, you're not going to be as likely to believe that men can have babies or that women can have Johnson. They know that the most vulnerable people in our society to these crazy ideas are the kids that still believe in Santa Claus, right? And that was why they had such a visceral and violent reaction for Ron DeSantis's bill that basically said, don't talk to kindergarten through 3rd graders about sexual orientation and gender identity. Pretty commonsensical, right? And we polled it. Even with the don't say gay language, it's still a 60-30 issue in this country. It's not even close.
Has Pride become, do you think, just another umbrella leftist movement? Because that's what it feels like. We see cities where they don't want police officers even providing security, let alone gay police officers marching. You see the socialist, signs coming out. You see all things left at this. It doesn't seem like it has anything to do with tolerance or understanding anymore.
No, that's exactly right. This is not the LGBT movement of the 90s, right? This has turned into the coercive phase. And frankly, Andrew, I think you're onto something. I had a friend of mine through the Claremont Institute who educated me about Marxism and progressivism. And the one thing that ties it all together is when you start to equate and create equity between two very unequal and totally different things. When you start to say that a man is a woman or a man can become a woman, you're becoming Marxist. Like you're tearing down society and dividing it. And so when you look at the fruits of these movements, you have to ask, like, what's at the heart of them? And at the heart of the LGBT movement now is divisiveness and it's coercion now. And they're attacking our most vulnerable and innocent people in our society, which is our children. And
you also notice they do not allow for much involvement of, let's say, the log cabin Republicans, right? They don't bring in prominent people like Peter Thiel or Rick Grinnell, right? These are people, they're both gay. Why are they persona non grata at these events? Because they worked for Trump? Because, on fiscal, most issues, they're conservative?
That's exactly right. No, look, if you look at Rick Grinnell, right? Rick Grinnell has done more to introduce inclusion and tolerance in the Republican Party than any really recent figure, definitely more than anyone on the left has. And so you have to wonder, why don't they like him? It's because he's not a Marxist. It's because he's not in it to tear down this country and to destroy it. That's at the heart of it. And that's why they pick and choose their winners and losers. Is if you hate America and you're part of the LGBT movement, we love you. If you love America and you're part of the LGBT movement, we hate you. It's just like Clarence Thomas being a black conservative. They hate him. He's enemy number one.
It's. I don't think it's any coincidence that Brandon Straka, who led the walkaway movement, all of a sudden landed himself in jail after January 6th, and he wasn't even in the Capitol.